samsararine bhaktakhaye kadeaya namaste chitsadatmane om sana vavatu sano gunatu saviryam karavavahe tejasvinam paritamastu शब्देन कथ्यते सर्वपापा विशुद्धात्मा श्रीगुरुपारसेवनात् देहि ब्रह्मा भवेद्यस्मात् चक्रपाणिं वदामि ते गुरुपारं भुजं स्मृत्वा जलं शिरसि धारयेत् सर्वतीर्थावगास्य सम्प्राप्नोति फलं नरः शोषणं पापपङ्कस्य दीपनं ज्ञानतेजसां गुरुपाररकं सम्यक् संसारतारकम् अज्ञानमूलहरणं जन्मकर्मनिवारणं सिद्ध्यर्थं गुरुपाररकं विवेक् गुरुपाररकं विद्वा गुरुरुचिष्टभोजनं गुरुमूर्ते सराध्यानं गुरुमन्त्रं सराजपे काशीशेषन्तनिवासो जन Tasmat sarva prayanena Shri Gurum Sharanam Vraje Vande Guru Paradvamvam Vammanashchita Gocharam Shvetarakta Prabhabinam Shiva Shaktyatmakam Varam Dukaram Chagunatitam Dukaram Rupavarjitam Gunatita Sarvam Chat Yodaryatsa Guru Smatam Atrinetra Sarvasakshi Achatur Bhaurachita Achatur Vanano Brahma Shri Guru Katita Priye Ayam Jalir Bhakto Naya Sagar Vrindaye Yadanugrato Jantus Chitra Samsara Muktivan Shri Guru Paramam Rupam Diveka Chakshushamritam Anda Bhagyana Pashyanti Anda Suryodayam Yatam Srinata Charanadvamvam Yasya Shirajate Tasye Dishe Namaskuryat Bhavya Pratidinam Priye Tasye Dishe Satatam Anjale Shaharye Rakshipyate Mukarito Marupir Budesha Jagarti Atra Bhagavan Guru Chakravarti Vishvodaya Pralanattar Nitya Sakshi Srinatare Guru Trayam Ganapati Hitatrayam Veravam Siddhokam Bhatukhatrayam Parayugam Gurute Kramam Mandalam Nirandra Shata Sushta Shastri Navakam Niravali Panchakam Srimam Malini Mantra Raja Saitam Vande Guru Mandalam Abhyase Sakale Siddhirga Manile Yari Prarit Dushkare Pranayama Shater Aneka Karaner Dukka Mater Durjaye Yasmin Arbhurite Vinashati Balin Vayu Swayam Dakshanan Raptum Tatsajam Svabhava Manisham Sevatvamekam Guru Swadeshika Seva Sharira Chintanam Bhavedratasya Shivasya Chintanam Swadeshika Seva Chanama Kirtanam Bhavedratasya Shivasya Kirtanam Yappararena Kanika Kavi Samsara Varine Setu Bandhayate Nata Deshikantam Upasmane Yasmadanu Kandava Maharajana Mutsuje Asme Shri Deshikendraya Namastabhishta Siddhaye Bharatam Sava Samsaram Davanada Vinashakam Brahmarandre Sitam Boja Andhya Samchandra Mandale Akatari Tire Kabje Sahasradala Mandale Hamsa Parshva Chikonecha Hare Kalmadyalam Gurum Sakala Bhuvana Shristi Kalpita Shesha Pushtir Nikilani Gamadrusti Sambaram Vyarta Drusti Avaguna Parimarstis Appararteka Drustir Bhavaguna Parameshtir Moksham दृष्टि अग्निशुदा समं चाचु ज्वालपरीक्षकार्या मन्त्रराजामिमं मन्ये आणिसंवादं मृत्युजा हरे जति तने जति तद्गुरे कात्समीपते नरन्तरस्य सर्वस्य सर्वस्य गायता अजोऽहमजरोऽहं च आनदीनिधनस्वयम् अविकारश्रीरानन्द आनियं मातो मान् अपूर्वनं परं नित्यं स्वयं कृतिर्निरामयम् वीरजं परमाकाशं ध्रुवमानन्दमव्ययम् प्रत्यक्षमेतेयम् अनुमानश्चतुष्टयम् यस्य चात्मातपो वेद देशिकं च सरस्मरे मननं यभवं कार्यं तवनमिमामते साधुचं च मया दृष्टं वैतिष्ठति सम्प्रचाम् अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्परं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सर्वशुद्धिशिरोरत्नं विराजितापरं भुजं वेरन्तं भुजसूर्यो यास् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः यस्य स्मरणमात्रेण ज्ञानमुपद्यते स्वयं य एव सर्वसम्प्राप्तिस् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः चैतन्यं शाश्वतं शान्तं व्योमतीतं निरञ्जनं नारबिन्दुफलातीतं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः स्थावरं जगमं चैव तथा चैव चराचरं व्याप्तं येन जगत्सर्वं तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ज्ञानशक्तिसमारूढास् तत्त्वमालाविभूषितान् मुक्तिप्रदातायास् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः bhajami. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Vandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tadvamasyari Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Rahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami Nityam Shuddham Nirabhasam Nirakaram Niranjanam Nityapuram Chidanantam Guru Brahmanam Mamyam Rudam Mudre Karnikam Adya Samste Simasane Samsitya Divya Murtim Yayet Guram Chandra Kala Prakasham Chipustaka Kishtavaram Dharanam Shvetambaram Shveta Vilepa Pushpam Mukta Vibhusham Muritam Trinetram Vamakam Vidya Sitya Divya Shaktim Mandasmitam Sandra Kurvani Ranam Anandam Anandakaram Prasanam Jnana Swarupam Nijamura Yukam Yogindra Vidyam Bhavaroga Vedam Srimad Gurum Nityamam Namami Yasmin Shruti Chuti Dvamsa Niganugramakam Nityam Panchaviram Shashvat Vasate Tam Namamyam Praktashira Shishupavje Viritvam Dvipujam Gurum Tarabhayayutam Shantam Haritam Namapurvakam Nagarorarikam 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 Shiva Shasanata Shiva Shasanata Shiva Shasanata Shiva Shasanata Tvirameva Shivam Tvirameva Shivam Tvirameva Shivam Tvirameva Shivam Mama Shasanato Mama Shasanato Mama Shasanato Mama Shasanato Evam Vidam Gurum Yatvam Jnanamupadyate Swayam Tatsatguru Prasadena Muktamiti Bhavaye Guru Darshita Margena Manashuddhim Tukaraye Anityam Kandaye Sarvam Yatim Sindamagocharam Eyam Sarva Swarupam Cha Jnanam Cha Manuchate Jnanameya Samam Kuryan Anya Panta Dvitiyaka Evam Shriva Mahadevi Nindam Karodhyam Sayati Naramam Duram Yava Chandra Divakaram Yava Kalpanta Kodehas Avadeva Gurum Smarev Guru Lokana Kartavya Swachando Yadi Bhagave Karena Navaktavyam Nadniksi Shekatansanam Guru Ragrena Vaktavyam Asatyam Chakarachanam Gurum Svam Krityam Kritya Gurum Nirjitya Vajasam Aranir Nirdale Deshe Sabhave Brahma Rakshasam Muni Pipana Girvami Sureva Shapito Yari Alam Mrityu Kayad Bhakti Guru Rakshati Parvati Ashaktai Surabhyascha Ashaka Munayascha Guru Shapena Te Shigram Shayam Yantena Samshayam Mantra Raja Miram Devi Guru Rityaksharadvayam Smriti Vedartha Vakyenam Guru Sakshat Paramvaram Shruti Smrti Avignayam siddhir moksha shigyagra charmani dushasane yana siddhi sarva sirishta kambale Shiva Durvaya Devi Asane Shumbra Kambale Upavisha Tato Devi Tame Kamanasa Jayam Shutvam Chasanyartam Vashira Kasaram Priye Abhichare Krishna Varnam Gita Varnam Danagame Uttare Shantikamastu Purvam Pujame Dakshine Varanam Prokam Ashime Chadanagama Mohanam Sarva Bhutanam Vandamoksha Karambale Devaraja Priyakaram Sarva Loka Vashambave Sarvesham Skandhanakaram Gunanam Chavivardanam Dushkarmanashanam Cheva Karma Siridam Bhave Asidam Sandaye Karyam Navagrabhayapam Dushvarnarashanam Cheva Dushvarnam Phaladayakam Sarva Shanti Karam Nityam Hatavanyasa Pujaram Avedavyam Karam Srinam Saubhagyadayakam Sadam Ayurarogamishvarya Putra Putra Bhavardanam Akamata Shri Virava Japa Moksha Mabhakyan Avedavyam Sakamatu Labhate Chanya Janmani Sarva Dukkam Vayam Vignam Nashaye Chapaharakam Sarva Bada Prashamanam Dharmata Kama Moksharam Yam Yam Chintayate Kamam Tam Tam Prapnoti Nishitam Amitasya Kamadenu Kalpana Kalpaparama Chintamani Shintitasya Sarva Mangala Karakam Moksha Heturjame Nityam Moksha Shriyama Bhagyan Yogakamo Jame Yove Tasya Kama Phalapranam Yame Chata Sasaurascha Ganapadyashna Vaishnava Seva Shasiridam Devi Satyam Satyam Na Samshaya Atakamya Jame Stanam Kattayami Varanane Sagare Vasaritere Atavari Aralaye Shakti Devalaye Goste Sarva Devalaye Shube Mate Jada Tribuleva Mate Vrindavane Tada Avitri Nirmale Stane Nityanushtanato Piva Nirvedone Namolena Tapamitam Samachare Smashane Bhaya Bhumotu Vandamulantike Tatam Siddhyanti Dotare Mule Chutta Vriksha Sasanino Guru Putra Varamurkas Tasya Siddhyanti Nanyata Shubha Karmani Sarvani Devi Yogikam Navalaye Yogipa Karma Loyanti Narayana Bhavardava Naritu Bhagaye Panjayamavapnoti Narale Muktirayakam Sarvakarma cha Savatra Guruputra Sasidyati Sugopyam cha prayanena Amam tvam cha priyatviti Swami Mukhya Ganeshadi Vishnavarilam cha Parvati Manasapena Vaktavyam Satyam Satyam Vadamyam Ativa Parvachitaya Shraddha Bhakti Utaya cha Bhavaktavya Meram Devi Mama Masi Sada Priye Abhate Vanchake Durte Akane Nastike Nare Manasapina Vaktavya Gurugita Karachana Samsara Sagara Samudra Nekamantra Ramadi Deva Muni Pujita Sita Mantra Daridra Dukkha Bhava Roga Vinasha Mantra Vande Mabhaya Ranguru Raja Mantra Iti Shri Skanda Purane Uttarakande Ishvara Parvati Samvade Guru Gita Samartha Shri Gurudeva Charanar Paramastu Nityanandaya Gurave Shisha Samsara Harine Bhaktakaye Kaleyaya Namaste Chitsadatmane Nirvasanam Nirakansham Savadosha Vivarjitam Niralambam Nirantankam Nityanandam Namamyam Nirmamam Nirankaram Samadostashma Kanchanam Samadukha Sukhamariram Avadutam Namamyam Avinashina Mamanam Ekabhignaya Tattvatam Nitaraga Bhayakrodam Nityanandam Namamyam Naham Devo Name Devo Jivanamamiti Evam Vignaya Santushtam Antadutam Namamyam Samasta Kalpana Mantram Yamamuta Sanatanam Iti Vignaya Santruptam Nityanandam Namamyam Yana Vidagna Karmanam Namasankalpa Varjitam Eyo Pare Ainandam Avadutam Namamyam Swabhavineva Yo Yogim Sukambhagam Namanchati Yadrushalabha Sandrushtam Nityanandam Namamyam Eva Ninda Prasamsavyam Tasya Vikriyate Mana Amma Kvera Mamanam Avadutam Namamyam Nityam Jagrara Avasthayam Swapnavadyovati Nishchitam Chinmayamanam Nityanandam Namamyam Dvesham Nasti Priyam Nasti Nasti Asya Shubhashubham Eradhyana Vinamdam Avadutam Namamyam Taram Pashyati No Yastu Jagapashanti Chinmayam Nitya Yuktam Gunachitam Nityanandam Namamyam Yogi Darshana Matrena Avate Bhuvanatrayam Pavanam Jagamam Tirtam Avadutam Namamyam Sarva Pujyam Sarapurnam Akhandananda Vigraham Swaprakasham Chiranandam Nityanandam Namamyam Shashasalini Esho Yangsho Baraito Brahmana Santu Nirvaya Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kashi Dukha Bhag Bhave Sarvastarat Durdani Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu Sarva Kamana Vapnutu Sarva Savatra Nandatu Swasti Matra Uttam Icheno Astu Swasti Govyo Jagate Purushevya Vishwam Subhutam Shubhidatam Noastu Yoge Sadhgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Good morning, buenos dias, bon dia. Welcome to all of you for Sunday morning Satsang. And it's a great pleasure to be speaking to you via live stream. And while all of you are in your homes and sitting comfortably in your puja rooms or in your living rooms or having your cup of coffee, at least you can have darshan of the temple, darshan of that which is eternal, and it reminds us every single moment of that which is real, that which is unreal, and to remind us of the grace-bestowing power of God, the grace of the great lineage that we all sit under. So today we have a great speaker. We have Nicheshwari, and we've had a lovely online study group with both Nicheshwari and Dana, which I know many of you have been participating in, and it's been a wonderful, it's serving a great purpose to all of you who can't visit the ashram in person or have darshan of this great land at Shanti Mandir, Walden. So I took it upon myself to join the Spanish class and also Dana's class on Pratyabhigna, but I took it upon myself as a little bit of a challenge and a learning process to join the online study group in Spanish so that I could practice my Spanish during this time and hopefully come out of it several months later with a better embrace with it and proximity so that I could be able to communicate to many of you, the Argentinians, the Mexicans, people from Spain. I've always tried in my little bits and pieces and thought maybe this would be a wonderful way to bring it all together. And with that, when I started to do that, my niece suggested another app to add to my phone, which is a Duolingo, and so I'm also practicing on that, and it reminds me several times throughout the day. So I get to put sentences together and practice all of that as well. So with that, I've been joining the classes, and Nicheshwari's been speaking on Adonde Vas, which is Where Are You Going? And that's Baba's, one of Baba's main books, and one of the beautiful, cherished ones that really, he used to always use an analogy saying there was always a story with Nasruddin and the horse, and where he would say, where are you going? And he would say, I don't know, ask society. That's the gist of it, okay? I'm not very good at telling stories, so I just keep them very short, just to the essence of them. And, but really we could use that with all of the analogies of the situation that we all find ourselves in. Where are we going? Where is it all headed? And even to every single thing that we do in our daily lives, where am I going? I'm going for that walk, but what am I going to do with myself on that walk? The why, the what, and what we can really derive from that for ourselves to enrich our own sadhana. And this is such a great golden time. We always talked about the golden days with Baba, the golden days with Gurudev and Gurumai, the golden days with Gurudev, and now we have this golden time with ourselves, and really having an abundance of time to feel, to experience, to look deeply within to that which is eternal, that which is everlasting, and that which is fleeting and can move on. So we're really taking this time here at the ashram to do just exactly that, and to practice, and to be with one another, and to continue to keep the flame of that great eternal presence, the flame that reminds us of what the gurus teach us, that light within, and keep it lit here, so that as soon as we are able to be in a position to be able to reopen and have all of you come for darshan, it will touch your hearts and allow you to feel again that presence of grace and that great knowledge that illumines itself from within when we allow ourselves to surrender to that process completely. So es un placer. It's a pleasure to have Nicheshwari. And I also want to thank all of the Spanish-speaking people who have been sending me texts and communications in Spanish, which is also encouraging me to try to find a way to respond in Spanish, even if I have to go and search and all of that. But it's tuning it all up for me, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart. So we'll hear from Nicheshwari now, and the idea was that that because the class is in Spanish, a few people expressed to me, oh, will Nicheshwari be giving those same talks on the Monday on the study group in English? And when we kind of looked at the schedule, initially it was like, well, we have Mondays with Nicheshwari, we have Saturdays with Dana, and then we have everything else here at the ashram in between. So it was like, rather than take another day for that, I thought that on the Sundays, once a month when she's the speaker, that she could combine two classes together and be able to give us a summary or a summation of those two classes. So what we're going to get today is the summary or the summation of the two classes that we've had so far. And then I'll give you more information at the end of Satsang with how to join us online for those study groups and more details about what's ahead. So thank you all again for your presence. Thank you for joining us. And we feel your presence in our hearts, and we miss your physical presence here at the temple. Sadhgurunad Maharaj Ki Jai.
Gracias.
De nada.
So the idea is to study the book that is called Where Are You Going? Or ¿A dónde vas? Why? Because Gurudev mentioned that this is the 50th year after Baba came for the first time to the West. And in celebration of these 50 years, we should really understand not Baba's teachings, because it's not Baba's teachings, it's the teachings as Baba taught them, which is very different. And the point today, one of the points of this talk, is exactly just how different it is when Baba teaches and when other gurus teach. So this is a study of 50 years of the guru relationship and 50 years of discipleship. It's very interesting to see everybody who met him, how their lives were transformed. Some spent a long time with him, and some spent just like a day, and were just as transformed. So as a matter of introduction, let's start with introductory mantras, and then we take it from there. So, Nityananda Yagurave Shirya Samsara Harine Bhaktakare Kadehaya Namaste Chitsadatmane Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nisprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vishavahe Om Shanti 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 Sadhgurunad Maharaj Ki Jai. So Baba came to the West, and he was not the first guru who came here. I made a short list, so that I wouldn't forget. And we could say that in the 19th century and 20th, gurus from India started traveling to the West. Before, the Westerners had to go there just with the popes. The popes did not leave the city of Rome before, but one day one ventured to travel abroad, and then from there all the other popes took a liking to travel the world. So what happened is that, first of all, we remember Swami Ramtirth, who came at the end of the 19th century, and then Paramahamsa Yogananda, who brought Kriya Yoga, very important one. His center is in California. So also Swami Vivekananda, who brought Advaita Vedanta. seriously, and he transformed the lives of many, especially Americans, when he spent a long time here. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi with transcendental meditation, Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada in the 60s with the movement of Hare Krishna consciousness, Swami Sachidananda, who spoke in Woodstock in the rock festival, and there were many others. And each one of them brought a different type of knowledge, a different type of, let's say, viewpoint on the philosophies of India, of course. But Baba brought for us the Guru. The Guru is something very special. The Guru is a power that can transform our lives if we let it. And there is a story about Alexander the Great warrior, emperor. And when he was 32 years old, he had already conquered the whole world as we knew him, as we knew the world. So what happened is that he was thinking of going to India because the Orient he hadn't totally conquered, and he thought his army was still in good shape. The army was not in agreement, but he thought they're okay to go and fight some more. So while he was preparing his trip, he says he went to his teacher, very bright teacher, Aristotle, and he asked him, what can I bring you from India? I'm going to go and conquer them and bring everything, women, men, cattle, jewels, books, whatever you like. And they said that Aristotle told him, bring me some sages, bring me wise people, bring me these saints, so that these stupid, selfish wars can end. Because he realized no matter how this guy, he's not going to stop fighting. So the story is that when he died, when he knew that he was about to die, Alexander asked for 3 wishes. And he said, I want, first of all the greatest physicians in the kingdom to go in front of my coffin. So people will see that when death is there for us, no matter how great science, no matter how wise these doctors, nothing can save the person. We are at the mercy of the Lord of the Dead. Wish number 2 was all his jewelry and wealth to be scattered around the procession so people could pick memory or 2 and say, see that all my work and all my effort during these years comes to nothing. And then he said, and the third thing is from the coffin, I want my hands to go like this, so people will see that they're open and that I'm taking nothing with me. So that was very moving because one would think, doesn't expect so much wisdom from a soldier, but obviously he had it. So he said, actually everything amounts to nothing. This was in a nutshell. So then we can also think about an old scripture that is called the Kularnava Tantra, in which it tries to explain the Guru in this way. It says, in alchemy, the alchemist has a very special stone which is called the Philosopher's Stone. With touching with it, everything becomes gold. So it's very valuable and it's very strange. It's very esoteric, and this is the alchemy of old. And then you can do that, but there's no way the Philosopher's Stone can turn anything into another Philosopher's Stone. It can only turn everything into gold, and the powers stop there. And the Kularnava Tantra says, the Guru is somebody who will make the disciple equal to him or her. It's not like it's going to just teach them some mantras or make him a better person, a nicer person. He's going to make it exactly as he or she is. How? By revealing its true nature, the true nature of the person, which is why we go to a Guru. After having lived, and they say that there's 8,400,000 species in creation on this planet Earth, after having been, for of course, a virus, a bacteria, a chicken, a little animal, big animals, and then finally we have a human body. When we do that, then we start looking for liberation. We realize that life cannot be just this, living like an animal, like a nice animal, by being alone then, looking for a boyfriend, wife, etc., having the babies, every day going to work, respectable animal, coming back home in the evening, enjoy family life, and at the end, die. The human that does exactly this is not taking advantage of this treasure that is the human body. According to the great Shankaracharya, he said, people just need very few things. You need a human body. You need a desire for liberation. And you need the presence of a capable and good guru that wants to guide you. So in this world, we have the three of those. So from here, we can just start on. This tradition has always been there, and then people who met Baba when he first came to America, to the West, it was very special because what the person who wrote the introduction here, Swami Durgananda, says, it was like electricity all over the place. It was like a raw wire, and it was so pleasant, and it was so powerful, and even scary, that you just wanted to be there. You didn't want to go back home. You didn't want to leave that presence, that place. So Baba, the first time he came in 1970, he came to the city of New York, here, San Francisco, California, because there's San Francisco everywhere in the world, and Paris, France, because there's Paris even in Texas, but this is Paris, France. So Baba traveled the West, teaching the other philosophies and giving his state. Now, before we start with the book, the important thing is he gives his state, and that is the main thing. And because he needs people who are not used to sitting down in silence, in peace, to experience that divine experience of their own nature, then he has to fill the programs with chanting, meditation, stories, experience talks, and so many things that he created, seva, a lot of seva, so that people would sit. That they asked Gurudev not recently, what happens when the Kundalini awakens and it rises up in the body? And he says, no, it never rises because it's never latent. It is not latent. What happens is that when your mind is still, when your mind is quiet, you realize all these movements. In your normal state, you don't realize practically anything. So he came here, and he started organizing all these programs and telling stories, the Nasruddin stories, etc. So the first chapter, first the introduction, where this person narrates her extraordinary experiences upon meeting Baba. And then the first chapter is called Where Are You Going?, which is a great question, and it can be even a mantra. Because, like Devani was saying, when you ask yourself, where am I going with this attitude? Where am I going with this knowledge? I feel like studying Russian. Yeah, because the mind is crazy, no? So in the quarantine, you can come up with those ideas. It would be good to ask yourself, where am I going by studying Russian? Where am I wasting my time? So where are you going can be like floating upon us, and ask ourselves every time we do something, why? So the first part is called the purpose of our lives. And Baba talks there exactly what I just mentioned. It has to have a human purpose. It has to be different from that of an animal. So then, the freedom to become. This is the stories that we heard so many times. For example, somebody went and asked him, what is the value of a human life, a human birth? So the Guru gives the disciple a diamond, and he says, go to the town, and then to the fruit vendor, to the vegetable vendor, and to the wood vendor, and then to some of the minor jewelers, and then to the main jeweler of town. And ask them, but don't sell it, just ask them what they would give it for you. So he goes and shows it to the fruit vendor and says, what would you give me for this diamond? And said, 2 kilos of oranges. Okay. And then he goes to the vegetable vendor. What would you give me for this diamond? I would give you 4 kilos of potatoes. And then he goes to all the minor jewelers, and they also said prices, no? But when he comes to the master, he says, friend, I have very bad news for you. You cannot sell this, it's priceless. It's so precious, just keep it, put it in a place where you can adore it. And when you go to sleep, hide it very well, because it's priceless. What can I say? So he says the same thing applies to the human body. So if we don't appreciate this, then we're wasting it. This first chapter also tells the story of Ashtavakra that we know very well, when King Janaka was sleeping, and then he had a dream, and the dream was very violent, and then he woke up, and then he was with the queen, and everybody was treating him right. At some point, he fell asleep again, and he had this dream that he lost the war, and he was hungry and tired and probably hurt, and he found some sugarcane field where he started eating some sugarcane, and the owner of the field started beating him, etc. So he called the ministers, which of these is true? While I'm sleeping or when I'm waking up? And you know what? There's masters in the Vedanta tradition that say that there's only 2 states. We are accustomed of thinking of 4 states. They say there's only 2, awake and asleep. Because while you call you're doing with your eyes open and you think you're awake, you're just in another reverie. You're just in another dream. So there's only either you're awake or you're asleep. So because the ministers are not able to answer this question, then he puts them in jail because there were that kind of people before and now. And so one is the father of Ashtavakra, who is a young person. As we know, we studied for a whole year Ashtavakra Gita. So he is crooked in 8 places in his body, which is Ashtavakra, not crooked in 8 places. Because he was cursed to be born like that from his father, when one day the father was reciting his Sanskrit classes, and the baby in the womb was so wise that he says, "Daddy, you don't say it like that." And so he cursed him, etc. So the Ashtavakra is asking the mother, "Mommy, how come I don't have a father?" And she says, "No, you do have a father, but he's in jail." "Oh, in jail? Did he steal anything? What did he do?" He says, "No." And then she tells the story of the king and the dreams, and they're not able to tell him which of the 2 states is real. "Mommy, I know that answer. I'm going to go to the kingdom, and I'm going to tell the king." So he comes to the palace, and he says, "I want to see the king because I have the answer to his questions." So they let him in, and then the king, upon seeing this crooked person, starts laughing. And so, following the other ministers, we don't know if they really find it so funny, or because in those days, if the king laughed and the others didn't, they probably would lose their heads. So everybody's laughing, and then Ashtavakra sees this and he starts laughing at them. The king realizes he's not a regular person, this one, and he says, "Young boy, we know why we are laughing, because you look so funny with this body. However, we don't know what you are laughing about. Please tell us." So Ashtavakra says, "I'm laughing because I thought I was told you were a very wise king, Janaka, and I don't think so. And then your ministers are also very wise people, but you laughed at this, that is the body that is temporary, that is not I, and you consider it from the point of view of your own bodies, which are also temporary. Where is your wisdom? And let me tell you something, when you're sleeping and when you're dreaming and when you're awake, neither of these 3 states are real, because real is what was, is, and will be forever. And all this is temporary. Learn this, O king. Everything that is temporary, by principle, is not real." So Janaka becomes his disciple. That is another of the stories that Baba said here. And when Baba was in the West giving the programs, what I hear, of course, I did not meet him, but everybody said that the state that you were in when you were in his presence totally changed your life in such a way that you felt you were leaving yourself in that hall, and the person who came walking out, that was not the same. He says the person who walked in here disappeared. It's a new person that is coming out. So he was able to do this, and when somebody is able to give that, the question arises, why don't I take an opportunity to use it? Because it is a present, it is a gift. that the Guru gives. If I don't use it, it is in a way bad manners. So when we are there and we receive that, but when we go out, when we go to our normal lives then, and then we start behaving as a limited being, then we have to come every month for an intensive to be reminded, 20 years, 25 years of intensives, and I don't get it. What happens? Gurudev gives an answer about the ego. And I have it here in See the Mark, that I totally wholeheartedly recommend that you read it because it's extraordinary this month, April. So he says, somebody asks him, no? Anavamala and starts all these technicalities. So Gurudev responds, we can read a lot of books. To me, this is the difference before like Siddha Yoga or Shanti Mandir, whatever, and the other gurus. We can read a lot of books, yes we can. That can give us a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding. All the sages say that at some point that kind of understanding though is not enough. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, this is Gurudev speaking. After Lord Krishna has been talking to Arjuna for 9 chapters, he talks about himself. He describes what is called his vibhuti, his divine splendor. So after he warms him up, one could say, he reveals himself. And Arjuna wants to know, what is this Krishna? I thought he was just my friend, but now I see he's really something different. It's like radiant. This is my friend Krishna, I have to learn. So Krishna tells him, I have been born many times. I have been on this earth many times. I know each and everything that is to be known. But he still sees that Arjuna is puzzled. So he gives him the divine inner eye so that he can see him for what he is. And then Arjuna is, of course, full of amazement at everything he sees. He sees birth and death and time non-existent because everything is relative, and he opens completely to the experience of reality. Reality, which is something we're going to speak about in 2 more minutes. So he sees this, and it is so overwhelming that he said, no, stop it, I cannot take it anymore. But he feels inside, if this is Krishna, Krishna is everything, I am Krishna, I am everything. This is a revelation that Arjuna receives on the battlefield. It's a big thing. So he is happy with it, and then later on he agrees to fight, and we know that story. But in the experience, what we're thinking, okay, we have this knowledge, but why don't we use it? And he says, in the experience, many of us, this is Gurudev speaking, I want to be one with the truth. I want to experience oneness. Yet, we come close to the experience of oneness, a fear that comes from the ego creeps in rather quickly, and we turn away. And if you ask yourself what makes you run away from the Guru, from the spiritual path, it's not anything but your own ego. I just want to be normal. I don't want to chant, I don't want to meditate, I don't want to do this. It's simply the ego speaking. So the question here is, by reading these words, and I think that this book should come like with a cautionary label here, because like it has a lot of energy. So you read it, and these words have an effect inside. They activate, they're like enable, if you want, some app, something inside. Sometimes you're reading it and you start crying. It's very powerful. So what happens is we read it and we receive the direct experience. This is the difference. When fear creeps in, then it's exactly as when we have to start going to Baba's books. Studying is good. Like he says here, you can learn many words, you can learn many sutras, etc. But we have to be wary of studying too much. Why? Because as this person is asking about Anavamala, sometimes people had that experience around Gurudev, around people like that, that you're floating and there's no left and there's no right, and there's no up and there's no down. It's like you're floating into the nothingness and the everythingness, and then you expand it like anything, and something brings you down to the normal experience. So what happens is that this is what we would call reality. Ashtavakra explains to the king that there's 3 states. But these 3 states, as we progress on the spiritual path, I think we have to let go of all these concepts, because otherwise we become attached to those concepts and we don't let ourselves become free. So he says there's 3 states. So the state is the state of waking state, the other one is sleeping, and the other one is dreaming. They're different. And overriding all of this is the 4th state, the state of Turiya, the state of consciousness. But then we find that some other philosophies say, no, the 4th state is still a state. Don't get lost in it. It's called Turiya Tita, beyond the 4th. So it would be the 5th, maybe. Where I'm getting at is, when the experience is there, you grab it, you claim it, you make it yours, and you make it last. In this, Siddhamar Gurudev explains how you elongate it. You are in that silence, and you don't break it for any conversation or anything, but you try to make it grow like a plant. If a little plant is growing, and then you say, oh, it's nice, isn't it nice? Let me see. And then you break it. One has to give it time. One has to give it nourishment. So the states are also something that can be studied, but we should not get attached to those. Also, the tattvas, all these concepts. It's good to learn, but it's good to unlearn. I see this has been my experience lately, and I think, yeah, you learn, and then you have to forget it, because otherwise the mind finds a comfort zone in the knowledge that is there, and then it thinks that there's safety in it, but there's not. There's just limitation. There's no expansion. So Baba came, and then he taught nothing of these teachings except meditate on yourself, worship yourself, honor yourself. God lives within you as you, except that one, nothing is his. Everything comes from ages, from centuries before. And that is their value. The value is that they were before, they are now, and they will forever be. Means they are true. That's something we have to remember. And among other things that he revealed to the West, and we like so much, is the philosophy of Kashmir Shaivism. Here he explains in a very beautiful way the self, so what we call the Atman, and the translation is probably self, but self also leads to confusion, in my opinion, because when you say honor yourself, if you don't remember to put the capital S, it's like yourself, the little self, right? And then we get caught in it, because how am I going to worship myself is pure ego, right? I mean, when you start thinking. So he speaks about the self, and self is chapter 2. So the first chapter is where are you going, the purpose of life, and the second one is the self. In the self, before I go into this book, there's 4 or 5 paragraphs here in the Guru Gita, where it tries to explain what Guru is and what Atman is, or self, if we must call it something. So it's 62. It says, it, so means the Guru, or the Atman, moves and moves not. So here what I think when the sages create this type of like contradictions is to break our molds. Like remember before, mothers used to make pies in a round thing, like they had to break it, so in order to be able to release the pie. No, I'm too old for this. Well, there was those things before. In any case, the mold is there. The mind finds, okay, now the self, I know the self, yes, is bigger than anything. But to break you free from that, the Guru has to give you different types of information, different stories, different experiences each time until they finally break. So it says here, it moves and moves not. Then the mind goes, excuse me? It is far as well as near. It is inside everything as well as outside everything. Then 63 says, I am unborn. I am free from all age, we wish. My being is without beginning or end. So it's eternal. And the thing is with eternal as well as with immense, these are words that can take you away from the mental limitation. Because what is eternal? Eternal, we tend to think that it's a long, long, long time, like years, light years or something. But it's something that cannot be measured. It can be just a microsecond, or it can be light years. It is eternal. It has no measure. Maya is what measures. To get out of Maya, we have to go where we are not measuring. This is the measuring machine that limits us so much. So, 63, I love this. I am free from all age. My being is without beginning or end, because it doesn't have beginning or end. I am unchangeable. I am consciousness and bliss, smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest. So, immense means, if you go to the Roman roots, can not measured, immense, not measured. So it can be something so small that we cannot see it, or something so huge like the universes. Doesn't matter, we cannot measure it with this measuring machine. So here the sages are trying to bring us out of our comfort zone of thinking and give us a different type of thinking. Then 64, it says, I am beyond all primeval things. I am everlasting, self-luminous. Actually, the word is numinous with N. When something has the light inside and is not reflecting other objects' light, numinous. But he said here, self-luminous, taintless, completely pure. I am, but he's saying that, but he's saying you are. No, we're reading it, and I had to think, I am beyond primeval things. I'm everlasting. I am everlasting. Everlasting because I'm always there. At some point, that consciousness that is I contracts itself in a form and comes into a human body where it comes to act out the karmas from previous lifetimes. Once I understand this, then I always look at myself a little like with a distance. Okay, I'm not this, and therefore nobody else is. I am eternity, I am eternal, I am immense, I am wow. This is what the teachers, especially since we're speaking about Baba, want to teach us. To communicate, it's catching, no, like the virus, their state. This is what they want to do. What else do they want to do? They already live in a place of bliss. They already know truth. They already are overly conscious. So their only task in life is to catch or to share that state with us when we are lucky enough to sit at their feet. So here in 64, it says, I am the supreme ether. I am immovable, blissful, and imperishable. So when you have that experience after a good chant, after a good meditation, we try to hold on to it. And then, then it says how to contemplate it. That's another story. But this one is the Guru Gita. We did the Guru Gita 1 year with the study group, the Mexicans. It's extraordinary, so poetic. So what happens is that he speaks here about the self. After having non-thought this, we didn't think, we're non-thinking. It says, the pure I. What is the self? This is Baba speaking. It is the pure awareness of I am. Now the thing here is because from the Sanskrit we had to translate into English and then Spanish, but it's not I am, because I gets the I implicit, which shouldn't be there, because I is the identification with the limited self. And am is also a limited verb. You are rich, you are poor, you are beautiful, you are. So it's actually a pure awareness that is in silence, but they have to try to explain it somehow. So it says, it's the pure awareness of I am. The original I consciousness, Chit, that we were studying yesterday with Dana, which has been with us ever since we came into this world. It's not been with us, it's been us. I'm going to translate this. It's not with us because that implies duality, right? This is why the study groups, we get the book, but we, like an orange, we open it in the smallest pieces, in the smallest syllables, to find the truth of what is trying to be conveyed there. So it says, since we come into this world, even though the I exists in woman, I'm not a woman. Even though it exists in a man, is not a man. The I is without form, color, or any other attributes. This is the reason why in the Spanish study group I told them, let's call it Atman, because I has too many things attached to it. So he says, people think I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm American, etc. But Shankaracharya says, no, you are neither of that. You are not anything. You are Brahma. You are expansion. You are purity. You are eternal. And the three characteristics that he mentioned about Atman, which is true. The definition that he gives of true is existed before, exists now, and will exist forever, unchanged. So if something doesn't meet these three requirements, then it's not true. When, like Devani says, we discuss about what is true and what is untrue, we practice viveka, separation of what is true and what is not true. How do we know? True meets these requirements, untrue doesn't meet them, period. So that alone brings a lot of detachment, because when something is not eternal, why bother getting attached to anything that in any case is going to go? So then he talks about this, and he says, no form, no color, no other attributes. We have superimposed different notions onto it, but we are Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. He says, the I is the source of this world. A banyan tree is tiny, and if you crack it open, you will find nothing inside the seed. But that nothingness is where the potential for the tree is. So it says, yet the seed contains an entire tree with its roots, branches, and leaves. In the same way, the self is the seed which contains the whole universe. Then we go back to this, he is saying I am, and this I am that self. Not just admire somebody who reached that state, but really go for it. Then he says, the self is the true God. Without the knowledge of the self, even the practice of religion will not take us to God. There's a story of somebody who's going to go to a pilgrimage and says, where are you going? I am going to Mecca. Why? Because I am going to do 10 pradakshinas of that monument that is in Mecca. Why? Because God is there. He says, no. Do these 10 pradakshinas around me. I'm also God. And they would ask, Baba, you really think you're God? And he says, I am as well as you are. I see it in you, as me. Because I can see it, then I can see it in everybody else. So he spoke like that, and for a few minutes, people got it in his presence, but then you go back to the limitation. So the second characteristic of this that we always keep in mind is chit. Chit is consciousness which illumines everything. So we know things because of chit, that is us. When we feel bliss, conscious makes us aware that we're feeling bliss. When we're worried, makes us aware that we are worried. How do we know all these things? Because chit is there. So we're true and we're conscious. And then Ananda is bliss. And it can be understood only after we attain it. Impossible to speak about bliss, to explain it clearly. There's a saint, I think it's Kabir, that says, ask a mute person to describe the flavor of a mango, the flavor of a sweet. Cannot do it. The same is true of bliss. Bliss, you have to experience it in meditation. And Ganeshwar Maharaj says, the effulgence of the self is ever new. So this is the second chapter. And it is about the self. It has many good stories. The shrine of a donkey, we are all God, etc. Enlightenment belongs to you. When you want to reach this state, it says just sit very quietly in your chair. Then turn within and try to see who watches your thought from inside. If you keep watching it in that way, you will come to know the self. You are looking for what you have never lost. How can you attain what you already have? The self is already working inside you. Though, what action are you going to find it? You're not going to find it in any action. And they asked Gurudev one of these questions, and I'm going to bring it up here. He said, because we have to feel that we are complete. He's talking about feeling incomplete and feeling complete. Or feeling a limited individual or the self. Or in Kashmir Shaivism, as they say, Shiva and the individual, the contracted form of Shiva. So he says, Baba himself went through something like this. When he came to Bhagavan Nityananda, after having wandered for many years, he had a realization, this is my guru, these are the teachings, now I have to study them. On any path that has a guru, one has to live the guru's teachings before one will become complete. These days, however, people wake up and immediately they're ready to teach. Okay, I think I'm ready. And other people come to the person and accept what he teaches without question. But when we come from a true tradition, we adhere to the wisdom of this tradition. Wisdom is universal, he says. In all traditions, we find the same essential teachings. For example, Baba's teaching is God dwells within you as you. Christ's teaching, God's kingdom lies within you. The wording may be a bit different. Both are saying the same thing. And finally, it ends like this. When you have the full experience of that teaching, you know I am complete. But it takes a long time to give up the sense of incompleteness. Why? I think the only reason is so that the play can go on a little bit longer. And that can be, no? We fall in love with our limitation because we've been living in it for so long. So in his book, Conversations with Gurudev, he also says, you know exactly when you can press the button and say, game's up, game up. But do you really want it to be up? Or are you having a lot of fun with all this, no? Suffering and confusion. So this is what we get from studying in depth these books. And then questions arise, and it's interesting to see that when the answer comes to the question, another question comes. It's like the waves in the ocean. It never stops. So it's good. The mind likes to be busy. But after studying for some time, and Gurudev recommends you just sit down and do nothing. Make sure you learn how to do nothing. That is the truth. That is the system. Nothing. Not thinking, not getting up, nor considering, nor going over what you heard, just nothing. In that silence is where we are going to find the true answer to everything. So I totally recommend that you read Siddha Mark. It's 10 years, so there's like 40 issues. This one, April 2020, it's really interesting. It's full of wisdom, it's easy to read, and you can find many nice jewels if you really look. So I think this is what we're going to do now for these 2 chapters. Invite you to participate in the study groups, because it is a way for 1.5 hours to raise your mind from the place where it is and really not so much learn, though we learned something, but also to place yourself at a different level, to forget about the news, to forget about the conflicts, to forget about so many things that populate our reality outside. There has to be a reality inside and another reality outside. And when inside the weather is beautiful and the sun is shining and the flowers are there, and then it doesn't matter if outside, like the other day, it was snowing. It doesn't matter. Outside is outside. Inside has to be always better. So thank you. Feels very strange to speak to a few people. I trust you find this interesting, and if you want to try, like you want to try a little Spanish that you know, you are welcome to register for the Spanish. You don't have to, speak or anything, but it would be maybe a good idea to hear it in Spanish. And we have with Dena, as they were saying, the one in English with Pratyabhijna, Hridayam. Thank you. Sadhguru Nath Maharaj Ki Jai.
So this concludes our Sunday morning satsang. Thank you all for joining us. And for those of you who are currently not on our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our Shanti Mandir YouTube channel, and that is the way that you will receive notifications. Also, just a technical thing, make sure that receive notifications is switched on your devices, whether it's your laptop or whether it's your TV or whether it's your cell phone. Make sure that you have notifications on so that you do receive the notices of when we are offering live stream. And other than that, everybody remain safe, remain at home, continue to follow the protocol that is being given to all of us. As I keep saying, let us honor the protocol. It's for everyone's benefit. And with that, we'll close and we'll see you all next week. Sadhgurunad Maharaj Ki Jai.